Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Mike here at GameFromScratch, and today we are talking about the long requested Reaper. Now what is Reaper? Well, Reaper is a DAW, or a digital audio workstation. Basically, this is how musicians make music on a computer. And the reason why I called it the most recommended in the title is not because of me. I am in no situation to recommend audio stuff to any of you guys. I can introduce you to a tool, I can show you the basics of how it works, but I am no musician. I am about the equivalent as, say, a chimpanzee is with crayons, smashing them on the ground is an artist. That's what I am as a musician. But no, this is the most recommended to me. When I was saying to you guys in the channel, what should I learn? What should I check out for a DAW? Reaper by far and away came back as the most recommended. Now if you're interested, Reaper isn't technically free. It's available at Reaper.fm, but it's under very generous licenses. You can actually see right now, due to the Voldemort thing going on right now, you can actually get a temporary Reaper license if you are working from home. But on top of that, they have very, very generous terms. You can get it a discounted license for $60 or a commercial license for $225. Now, the discounted license is for people that make $20,000 or less. Now, if you are completely using it for personal use, there is a very generous trial. Basically, it's the full program, 100% full, and it will run forever. There's a bit of a nag screen when you first start it up, but you can basically evaluate Reaper for, I think they said 60 days, but it kind of just keeps going. And they update the heck out of Reaper. So if you're interested in grabbing it, it's available for Windows and Mac, and it's also available as an experimental build on Linux. Now, one of the things with Reaper is it doesn't come with a lot of music. There's no instruments built in. There's a synthesizer, and that's about it. So I recently covered LMMS, and it came with a ton of stuff built in. It's got like a Game Boy synth generator, some virtual drums, drum lines, all that kind of stuff. That stuff really isn't built into Reaper. Now, the cool thing is Reaper's like a 20 megabyte download, but in this particular example, I'm going to be using VSTs that I got from a Humble bundle that is still going on right now. There's a music producer bundle. It's a collection of VSTs from Applied Acoustic Systems. I'm using them, first off, because I like them. Second, because I have them on my system, because I don't have a lot of VSTs installed. Now, you can get a ton of free VSTs out there, but a VST and an STD are very similar. These things are executables. They can corrupt your machine. So you would only install a VST from a site that you really, really trust. So get a recommendation from someone you know. I wouldn't just recommend going to download VSTs from just anywhere. And if you're looking for just a good starter set, I'm impressed by what I got from this particular bundle. And like I said, they're already installed. So if you're interested, I will link that with information about Reaper down below. So if you want to pick this bundle up, there's only a couple days left on that. All right, anyways, here we go. We're heading over. This is Reaper. Now, as I mentioned, I just covered LMMS. It's an open source alternative, and it's a great choice as well. And it comes bundled with a bunch of stuff. This one seems to be a bit of a more advanced option, but still quite a bit cheaper than things like FL Studio, Cubase, Audio Tools, and so on, but kind of in that middle ground. And you get a lot of complexity going on here. You'll notice just straight from the menu, there is a lot going on here, but it's not actually that hard. It's one of those things that's daunting at first, but don't worry, it's not as scary as it looks. The other cool thing here, and especially because of you guys, I don't know what it is with you people, but you are all obsessed with dark mode. And it ships with dark mode by default, as you can see right here. Cool thing is, there's a lot of themes available. You can go and get other themes online. There's literally hundreds of them. But if you want to switch it up, you can. I do like the fact that it doesn't require a reboot or anything else. You can just come in here, basically switch out to a completely different theme. And okay, now that one I understand why you like dark mode, because my eyes are currently bleeding. So I'm going to switch back to the dark mode theme here. But you got nice, great theming support. You got a lot of predefined, setups and configurations for you to work with. And that part is definitely really nice. So now we're going to get into a really, really simple introduction to using Reaper. Now, I'm going to warn you right off the hop, no musician. Remember that. And if your ears bleed, 100% not my fault. Well, it is my fault, but I warned you in advance. I cannot make music worth a damn. Now, to make it a little easier on you guys, instead of recording my system sound out, I'm actually just going to leave my speakers on, and I'll do a secondary recording just from what picks up off my microphone. So that should keep the pain tolerance to a bit of a minimum. Okay, so here we go. Here is basically where you compose your tracks. You can have multiple tracks up and down here. This is your master mixer. We can kind of get more and more complicated as we go, and there are a ton of tools that are kind of just hidden away. So for example, if you do not have a MIDI keyboard, which many people don't, you can come in here and you can go, okay, I want a virtual MIDI keyboard. And there you see an on-screen keyboard. The cool thing is you look down here, Z, X, C, V, B, and so on. Those correspond to your keys on your keyboard. So you can actually play this keyboard using a normal PC keyboard. Make sure that your channel that you're manipulating matches up with the MIDI channel you specified here, and you can drive MIDI tracks using this on-screen keyboard. So you don't need to have a MIDI device, but if you do have your own keyboard, you can hook it up and start recording music that way. So let's start with some simple recording. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Reaper doesn't really have a lot out of the box, but it does have a synthesizer, so we're going to go with that. So first thing we need to do is create a new track, and we'll call this Ear Bleeding Starting Point. There we go. So there's our first track in here. Not much going on with it. I'm going to go into special effects on here, and I'm going to pick a synthesizer. So here is all of the plugins that are available. Most of these are modifiers and so on, equalizers, reverb, chorus, that kind of stuff. But there are a couple synthesizers built in here, so we'll go ahead and grab one of them. So Real Sin, Kokos, that guy right there. So there we go. We now have a synthesizer to work with. And the cool thing with Reaper is, as you are working with things, you can start playing with settings. You can drop things in on the fly, and it'll just take it. So if I'm playing back my music track and I drop in a wave file to go with it, it'll just keep going, which is very quite nice. All right, so here we go. We have our ear bleeding thing right in here. So now that we've got the track, we're going to go ahead and do an insert of a new MIDI item. So we can go there. We can set its length up here at the top. So we're gonna make this guy pretty short. All right, so there you go. So I'm zooming in a bit. There is our MIDI track on our synthesizer. And now I can open this guy up and we get into the MIDI editor. Now again, this could be hooked up to your MIDI virtual keyboard, or this can be controlled using this on-screen display. So right now we're making 1/32 note. So we're gonna switch that up. We'll do a 1/4 note to make this really, really simple. So I'm only gonna be able to play, actually no, let's do 1/8 notes. There we go. So you're seeing the grid is changing in size as I do that. Now I'm going to just go ahead. I can just start basically each place I click. It's the same as clicking over here. You can scroll up and down and change your C to C4 to C5 and so on, like so. And now I can just basically start drawing in notes. So if I paint a note in there, and you see I'm drawing them in 1/8 scale. If I go back to 1/32, for example, that's actually 4 notes, as you can see. So I can put a single note in there if I want it, single note in there, single note in there. We can scroll in and out, zoom up and down. Again, you can scroll up over here, and let's just make your ear bleed really bad from that guy. And then if I decide, okay, that's too high and kind of painful, I can drag it down like so. Again, scroll down here a little bit. Let's drop a note down here. You can scale your note out like this, and let's do another note. And let's finish off like that. So this is going to sound really bad because that is 100% my specialty, just so you know. All right, so there we created that. There were other ways of doing it. You can have actually a list of the notes, or you can come in here and get like literally a spreadsheet of the notes, or you can even get musical notation if this is your jam. And you've got all kinds of options with it as well. I know literally nothing about musical notation, but I do basically understand how a keyboard works. So I'm back to the keyboard side of things. All right, so that's the basics of composing music. I can put it on loop mode down here, and let's just play. So that's pretty terrible. Really, really terrible. So now what I'm going to do with my really, really terrible is we can start playing a little bit with our MIDI controls. So we can turn the volume up and down. We can change the tuning. We can change out attack, decay, sustain, release. Ears bleeding yet? Probably soon. Anyway, so you've got control over the synthesizer over here and your notation over here. At any particular time, once again, you can grab any one of these notes and move them around, and it's being handled on the fly. All right, so we've done our one track. It's a magical track, isn't it? I think you would agree. Now I'm going to go back over here for a sec. We're going to pause it. So this is all of your composition. We've only got one thing so far, so it's not showing you too much. But now I could do with that selected, I come up here and I can start adding and layering in some special effects, for example. So if I want to do like a bit of reverb, I go in here, let's do some reverberate, like so. So now when I'm playing it, and I can change out the room size, and we'll get reverb coming in off of that. There we go. Now I'm going to admit that that sounds pretty awful, so I'm going to hit M right there, and we are going to mute that. All right, so there's how you can create one single track. Now what you normally do is start layering them together. Now this is where I'm going to bring a VST in, and this is where I think the majority of MIDI composed work is actually come from. It's some kind of VST or GUS or some other kind of, you know, imported instrument file. So it's going to go ahead and insert another track. So this track we're going to actually do is a virtual instant track on a new track. So it's going to create a brand new one. We want to go into, I think it's VST3. Let's get rid of our filter right here. And, oh, VST, yeah, so here it goes. So here's a couple of the ones we've got from them, the Applied Acoustics ones right here. So here's Strum Sessions. This is a virtual guitar. You can see right here, here is their interface loads up, and we can just come in here, and you can start playing with the guitar. You've got all kinds of control over it. You can change out the acoustic to an electric guitar. And again, this is what's currently on the Humble Bundle. This is one of their instruments. It is a guitar-like instrument. Now, there's no way are you 100% tied to their tools. There's a thousand VSTs out there. But again, do be very careful with where you get them from. So you got all kinds of settings for the amplifier. I'm going to go back to the acoustic, though. And you can change your fret position. You can change the sound files, the way things sound. All kinds of VSTs have their own little way of setting things up. But yeah, I like that. That sounds like a guitar. So we're going to go on back here. So it is now selected. And now we're just going to go ahead in here, and we're going to go back to the figurehead right there, or the masthead, or whatever the hell that's called. And we are going to insert a new MIDI item. All right, so there we go. We're going to make it match our other thing in length. And we're going to head on back. Stop moving around, asshole. All right, so now what we can do is come in here and double click. And now we're basically at the music editor again. If you got multi-monitors, by the way, this works very well in that regard. This is a very short track. You can see, once again, you got the same note control you had before. But now it's a guitar we're dealing with. So let's just do... All right. There we go. Let's stretch that note out by 1. And there you see a very, very simple guitar track. So how are those ears doing? They bleeding yet? Anyways, you get an idea of what's going on. So now we have that strum track going in there for the guitar. We have our ear bleeding track there that is currently muted. So let's unmute that and play everything together. Oh, that's just amazing, isn't it? All right, so we're going to stop all of that together. And now what we can do is head on down here. Oops, that's not where I want to go. I'll just do this back. Okay, so what I want to do is bring in a WAV file. So I'm just going to load up Explorer. All right, it's on my desktop. You're going to recognize this probably. Just bring in, so a lot of times you may have some recorded audio going on, and that's where a lot of this is actually going to come from. People, why could you not, let me try that one more time. Oh, that's the wrong file. I want the source. Here we go. So bring it in, drop it in. There we go. So now we have a WAV file to go along with our playlist. So I can come up here, I can mute the other guys here, and we're going to play just our WAV file. So let's go ahead and play that. Impressive. There we go. Impressive. So now we've got some audio to go with it. We can do things like scale our audio out to match. That's going to do a repeat. We could have stretched it or slowed it down or whatever. By the way, I can also undo. It's one of these guys up here. It'll kind of toggle back through all your previous actions. Same here. You can kind of flip through what you've done. So there we go. Now we have some audio in here. Once again, you can come in here and start applying some voice effects to it. There are a ton of plugins built in on that level. So what would we want to do to that guy? Let's just throw an EQ on it. So here we go. So we have impressive being played. So there, we can just start that in a loop. So let's play that again. Impressive. And now we can... Impressive. There you go. So you got control over, and you can start chaining these together, by the way. So if you've got to change the EQ up, and we want to tune this for surround sound, or we want to go ahead and, I don't know, all kinds of things. Again, I'm not a musician, so I do not use 95% of these things, but if you wanted to flange, I don't know. I'm just going to leave it alone, but you can start chaining special effects together if you so wish. There we go. So now we have our music track, our guitar track, and that is way too loud. So there you go. There. So we got a pretty nice soundtrack going. I'll throw that guy in there. That's pretty terrible, isn't it? But as you saw, pretty easy to bring in recorded tracks, straight up things like WAV files. It supports a number of different file formats too, so just about any kind of audio file you want to bring in and layer in here, you can. You have all kinds of tools for actually manipulating, to split them, to applying effects to them, and so on. And speaking of the effects, you can also do that at the channel level, the master level right here. So you can apply an effect to basically the entire stack and have it work that way as well. And where we're in the real basics of what we can do, and basically I could start layering these things in. So if I want to do another virtual instrument track, let's go in here and go, here's another one of those lounge lizards. So here's sample sessions. All right, so we brought that in. This guy is like that. Let's make this guy fat. There we go. So now we could go ahead, and you've got programs that you can have the settings for you, like that. You've got, okay, that's about it for right there. So kind of a psychedelic sound going on, and then we've got that guy in there. So now we have a new track. You can see it was created right there. And once again, same deal. So go ahead and go, I could say, I guess I want to go and insert a MIDI item on that. And then once again, I can just start playing. There. Okay, maybe I want to play just my guy as opposed to all of it. But you get an idea. You start layering things together, and then you've got controls over this. So I've got one guy that's too long. I got one guy that's too short. I could come in here, for example, and go, all right, just from here to there, and then I could come down here and go, I always find this in the wrong spot. I can go, say, trim items to selected area, and then boom, bring them to the same area, and then I could do a loop back, bring that guy in there, and there is our great masterpiece we've just created. Again, not a musician, not even going to try to make something that sounds good, but you can see how these things kind of work. You start bringing these tracks together, you start applying special effects to them, you layer them on top of each other, you control the volumes, the amplification, all those things going together. Also, if you want, by the way, a metronome enabled on here, you've got that option. You got a ton of other different tools that we're not working with all the way throughout here. They're way beyond the scope of what I want to do here. But say you wanted precision over what your current location was here. You've got a big clock that can actually show you in your track. You've got all kinds of tools here that we're never even going to get on. But you might be wondering at this point, okay, all right, I'm done. How the hell do I get my music out of this? Well, then you go up here, you go up to File, and you say render. And pretty straightforward. It's a scary dialogue at first, but basically just ignore everything here, name the file, and you'll save it as a WAV file. Don't want to save it as a WAV file, you've got a bunch of different formats. So down here we've got WAV, but you could drop it out as an ARG Vorbis or an ARG Opus, or even, see, do we have MP3 out of the box? Yep, MP3. All right, there you go. So they used the lame project, but there's even MP3 encoding available for you right there. So if you want to create your song as an MP3 file, you go ahead. We'll call this My Song is Awesome. All right, so there we go. We just created it. We can go ahead and set the location for it if we so wished. I'm fine with that spot. All right, and then render. And there you go. You just created your own awesome song. And my song is awesome. Wasn't it? There we go. So that was it. That was my awesome song created in Reaper. Reaper, again, it's one of those things you come up here and you start looking at these menus and go, oh, God, that's not going to be fun. But truth of the matter is, again, a monkey with some, or a chimpanzee with some crayons can make art. A person like me can make your ears bleed. And you know what? If you have any audible talent, the tool itself is easy to use. So the making it sound good, more of a challenge. And then when you start getting to the real complexity, it's just figuring out, for example, what the hell any of this stuff does. Now, another really nice thing with Reaper that I will point out is it's also incredibly stable. It is updated constantly, and most importantly, it uses very little system resources, and I don't think it has ever crashed on me. So if I come in here, let's go look, and that's not something I can say about LMMS. So here we go. Where is Reaper? There it is. Reaper is using 371 megabytes. Compare that to Firefox with 2 tabs open using even more. So Reaper is just so tight with how it is coded. I'm very impressed that way. Once again, it is like a 20 megabyte download. So I really do understand why people recommend this to me. But right now, my experience basically is LMMS and Reaper, and nothing beyond that, and I don't have any musical talent. So I can't really recommend one or the other to you, but I will say it this way. If you are just starting out and you don't want to worry about things like VSTs, you just want to get in there and start making noise, I would probably go LMMS. If you're looking at actually learning how to use this stuff and you're kind of more interested in going the pro route and so on, I do think Reaper is probably the better recommendation. And if you're using this in production, well, where I found LMMS really frustrating was the number of crashes I have experienced. Haven't seen any of that on Reaper. So LMMS seems like more of an out-of-the-box, ready to go, a lot of fun stuff in there to play with, and I would actually give the nod to it as being slightly easier to learn. But Reaper is seeming to be more polished, more professional, but again, less tools, less options. So kind of a bit of one, bit of the other. But out of the box, I do think it has slightly more functionality. It's just made to be more expanded upon when you start adding your own VSTs and stuff into it. And next time, I'm going to probably go on to something like FL Studio. I think that's the next on the most recommended layer list, but right now you have 2 musical recommendations from me. LMMS, completely free, open source option, and then Reaper, a very affordable with a very generous, fully functioning trial option out there. So really, at this point in time, you can download either and get to know it. And by the way, once last time, if you are going to go the Reaper side and you are looking for some VSTs to start with, the ones that ship with the Humble Bundle, again, that's lasting just a couple more days, I'm happy with them. Again, I'm no musician, but especially the guitar one, I'm really impressed with it. So So again, I'm not going to say don't download VSTs, but what I would recommend you do is check out the comments down below. All kinds of, there's awesome people on this channel, by the way, you people are awesome, who give all kinds of great recommendations. Kind of look at what other people are recommending. Don't just go out and, you know, trust any particular download site, because remember, a VST ultimately is an executable and very virus friendly. So yeah, that is it. That is my hands-on with Reaper. I am impressed, but I have no clue what I'm doing. So do keep that with a grain of salt. But I hope you guys are enjoying this kind of look at the musical side of things. I'm just trying to expose you to the tools and give you a basic of how to use the tools. I can't show you how to use the tools well, no musician, but hopefully just you're learning how to learn these programs at the very least. All right, that's it. I will talk to you all later. Goodbye.